Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today in maximizing our time in planning and teaching small groups. The bit.ly link for this presentation is located at the bottom of the screen, bit.ly/love groups, no capitals, because this is cap sensitive. We're going to get started today. I have videotaped this session in 3 parts. Our first part is going to be about acknowledging our feelings when it comes to small groups, and it would be something applicable to use with your students as well. The second part is going to be prioritizing our learning in small groups, and then our third part is going to be about planning the structure and taking into the considerations when we are ready to teach our small groups. We're going to get started today by making sure we have what we need. We're going to need a paper and pencil, earphones, and your computer, obviously, and our takeaways from the video that I asked you to watch ahead of time, and creative and flexible thinking. And then I also just noted some of the digital programs we're going to utilize today. So just so you know, my name is Danielle Mayer. I teach reading intervention at the Loveland Primary School. And I mostly work with 2nd graders. So a lot of my examples are going to be reading based, and the process that I go through is what I would like for you to be a part of today. The process that I went through in the spring is what I'm going to ask you to do today for your content area. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to acknowledge our feelings so that we can move past those feelings and start trying to do some planning. And my example today is with a text called Lena's Shoes Are Nervous. And I use this book because I'm with elementary type students. If you are a middle school or high school person, I'm sure there is an excerpt from a text that you're familiar with, or you could use images or pictures that could kind of do the same sort of process with your students. We're going to start out with our paper and pencil, and we're going to need a 4-box chart. In our chart, we're going to first acknowledge in the first box our back to school feelings. So these are feelings that you're having regarding coming back, whether you are remote or whether you're blended, whether you have a different job assignment, a different location, whatever the case may be. What are those back to school feelings that you're having? You can always pause the video if you need more time to write. The second box, we are going to fill in with our feelings about teaching small groups, whether that's via Zoom and Meet or in person with 6 feet distance. How are you feeling? Now we're going to listen to a little part of Lena's Shoes Are Nervous. When we do this, what I've done is I've inserted a YouTube video that someone else has recorded their voice reading. In the spring, when I didn't have a book I wanted, or when I wanted to share a book with my students and to read it via the screen made the illustrations too hard for them to see, I oftentimes found a YouTube video of somebody reading it, or someone had scanned in the pages and kind of read it through it, and I just muted them and I used my own voice. That way, everybody could see the pictures and see all the things that I needed them to see, but also it had my personality and my take on it. So either way is fine. This one for today, I just snipped the video so that we are only watching a part of it, and I just let the lady read it. You can watch this on your own time. To give you a quick scenario, Lena's shoes are super nervous, and she's going to kindergarten, and they don't want to go. So she can't go to school with no shoes. So her and her dad try to problem solve and figure out how to get the shoes to be unnervous. They're hiding under the bed. They're shaking. They're whispering to one another. And so in the end, they end up using different clothing items to kind of talk the shoes into being brave and going. And the headband is the piece of clothing that is the bravest. And she is able to kind of talk the shoes through letting go of our nerves and taking a chance. So that being said, now we are going to go back to our chart. And in the third box, we are going to acknowledge, what do we notice about the shoes in the illustrations? And the reason that I'm doing this section is because with my students, I might then have them draw a clothing item that they're wearing today, and they might need to use some of those illustrative techniques to show that the item is nervous. So whether it's the lines for shaking, or they're hiding, or whatever that might look like. Then the fourth box today, we are going to list some teaching items. So things that are critical to you teaching. And then what I'm going to have us do is we are then going to share one feeling. So any of the feelings from our small group box, I want you to put a star by one of them. And then you're going to go to the box where you have your teaching items, and I want you to put a star by one of those. And we're going to just link those. We're going to say our feeling dash our item, and we're going to share those together. So in this link to this Padlet, you're going to see that some people have already posted theirs. And you can see your manipulatives are already overworked. Your document camera is very scared. Your folders are frazzled, right? So all of these things. So this Padlet becomes an idea bank, right? And so if I'm a kid who didn't have any ideas, this would be a great place, and I can just steal somebody else's. And so then once we have this bank of ideas, if I was doing this with my students, I would do a keep thinking activity, right? So we're sticking with the same concept. We're sticking with these emotions that we're identifying and owning. And I want to keep thinking about it. So I want them to do something next. If I'm in the lower levels, I might do a class book. I might take a picture of the child's item. We might insert it into a slide, and we might type at the bottom, you know, Joey's shirt is worried. Whatever it is that the child chooses. They could also illustrate it if you don't want to have to take a picture. And then the other item, another keep thinking activity is that you could write a paragraph from that perspective of that item. And then the third thing that I had come up with was you could write advice. So you could pick a different clothing item or a different teaching item and write advice to something that someone posted. So those are just some ways to keep thinking. And as throughout this process, we were able to walk through using a model text, identifying our own feelings, and then doing some sort of follow-up activity with those things. Coming up is part 2, which is going to be prioritizing our learning in our small group.